Hey guys, I'm going to give you what I call a good example of an option or options for value play here as we're getting into the $7.57 50 cent entry, which we can go ahead and start drafting there and showing you how I'll come up with this. And so for 750, you can get at least one according to the contest here. Let me see on my phone. I already had it up here. 200,000 for the top prize, and so out of 235,000 people, just to sum this up here real quick, the payout structure, if you're within the top 54,600, you can get 12 bucks out of it. You'll be in profit on up to $200,000 in this particular contest. So that's what's going on with this this week, as it's a featured contest that goes live on Sunday, of course. Let's get an idea of the games that are in this. These are 1 o'clock games: Tampa Bay at Atlanta, Cincinnati at Cleveland, Tennessee at Indy, Buffalo, Kansas City, Miami at New England, Carolina at the Jets, and Chicago at Philly, Seattle at San Fran, New Orleans at the Rams, Jacksonville at Arizona, and up to Sunday, that's the rest of the afternoon games, Denver at Oakland. So there are tons of different factors to consider, injuries and all kinds of matchup based and strategic ways of going about thinking about these various games. But what we want to focus on, and we can make adjustments later, as if you can get into this particular contest if you want and save a spot, instead of just throwing guys in there and figuring, well, you're going to switch guys up and figure out all these thousands of variables later on. Try to go for the best value play options. For example, here when you're looking at quarterbacks, you don't want to get really the most expensive guy. You want to look down to someone who's a good value. For example, at least dropping down to Carson Wentz, because his team is highly favored in that game. The point spread is pretty good. I think I have the point spreads up right here. I can't remember if it's like 7 or 11 points, but no, I got quarterbacks up right now on my draft dashboard tool, as this works in particular with the games. I've just got a quarterback right now. So we'll just roll with that for now and see what we get as far as we can look for even a cheaper play, such as Russell Wilson. Like it shows here, the opponent rank, it even provides that information conveniently on DraftKings, 27th ranked. Opponent ranked defense, San Francisco, obviously a team, another bargain of a player at only $7,000 you can look at and inserting him in there. So I'm also going to give you, or try to give you, what I call poor man options, as commonly referred to as a cheaper play of the same type of play. And I will go ahead and tell you that the poor man's Russell Wilson is going to be in this particular, or these particular slates, is going to be Marcus Mariota. As you can see here, a value-based ranked 29th. And even if you had to go cheaper, you could go with, I believe, Tyrod Taylor, and at only 5,800, what a bargain, right? So, but let's try to kind of confirm some of these matchups and variables here using the tool, and I'll just order these up in terms of value or price. So actually right now what I'm on is stud or low risk proven players. So according to the variables of the variance that they have in various scoring throughout the year, their average scoring may be very consistent, along with their upside, and considering those numbers throughout the year, these players are performing very well with the amount of upside that you need to also probably win a contest. You see, for example, Antonio Brown, Bell, Gurley, and even go run to the bottom of the list real quick. Players more on the low end, obviously. I never heard of this guy. I don't know why he's on there exactly. But Julius Thomas, Benjamin Watson, Austin Seferian, these tight ends kind of make sense. Although I know for a fact, if you're really looking for a solid tight end. This is what I call a high risk guy, Jack Doyle. To be honest with you, so in my research numbers, this doesn't always most accurately reflect. The algorithm shows that the dash rank is 56, highest being 100, lowest being 1, which is okay, but the matchup is not good, so I'm not going to just insert this guy in there because of the I'm trying to think of the word for it. What they use in terms of trading. Well, anyways, let's move on and look at some of these guys that we might want to just go ahead and insert off the studs list because you want a few of these guys on your lineup. So you could consider and look at a guy that I like here. A team that is favored at home is Todd Gurley. Now we'll also try to find a poor man's version of him going forward with that. Let's see. So we'll give ourselves an expensive play just for the sake of it here to start with, and then we'll work our way around him and so forth and start to optimize like we were going to get into with the quarterbacks. Position optimizer. Okay, so if you'll follow how I'm doing this, you'll see it several times. So you remember how to do it, basically do it with this tool you can access. So ordering up in terms of value, affordable plays here. Like I said, Russell Wilson is good bargain for the price. If you needed to, you could drop down to in the price range of the 6,000 price range. Jared Goff, if you wanted to give him a shot in this tournament play, large tournament play. And you could even drop to, as opposed to, like I mentioned, Mariota or even Matt Ryan at 6,400. And showing here, like for example, his average is decent at 16.7, as opposed to like Goff at 18.4 points per game and so on. I believe they show these, yeah, fantasy points per game here as well, nicely for you. So, but you also want to look at the actual overall defensive opponent rank. Like here, it's closely matched with the quarterback ranking that they allow fantasy points in San Francisco. So this makes sense. Sometimes you'll see some variance, and it doesn't make sense because this number here could be 30 and this number here could be 13. So why would, the question being, that be so different in terms of overall defense to the particular position scoring? Well, it's possible, but it's not really likely to make sense to me. So if there, I would be a bit alarmed if these numbers were quite that much different, because I'm not seeing any of them are right here. Not a big difference, because that would just show me that it's kind of a fluke in a sense of that being a legitimate thing to, you know, if I can find an example here, or the best example, right here. This is kind of fluky that Buffalo is not. I tell you what this is. Buffalo is not doing so well in an overall defense as you might think they are. And quarterbacks, they allow a good amount of yards to quarterbacks, but not touchdowns. They're good, like a good red zone defensive touchdown. So I would say that's why they're showing the numbers that they are. As Smith is not likely to have a great game. He could have some production, but not really. You know, even though he's at home, he's not. There's better values out there, so we're not going to consider him here. Okay. So, anyways, we're going to consider stick with what we're talking about there, and we're going to go with the poor man's Russell Wilson and see if his production picks up this game as it should, as he had some opportunities there that he should have made in the last game prior to this, and that he should connect on some of these touchdowns, even though he's maybe without Rashard Matthews. So he'll just spread the ball around to other guys. He has Delaney Walker and other guys, even guys out of the backfield such as DeMarco Murray. guys that I like, actually may like this week. Let me see though. Who we're going to stick in at running back other than maybe Gurley. So once again, we're just ordering these up in terms of price, just like we're going to see them on. If you want to order them up in a different way, according to the overall algorithm or the matchup per position or matchup per overall defense, you can certainly do that. But I want to see and get an idea of the overall value of these guys. And I can also see also targets per game and rushes per game. So all these things are here for your reference, even percentage owned, fantasy leagues, and started, even a snap count. So you get a lot of information here in one place. So we're looking for an overall nice play. I'm going to try to take a home favored team game for the perfect overall play. As I'm looking down at 6,500, Coleman is at home. Of course, the team is favored, and they could run up the score a little, somewhat on Tampa Bay, as I would expect. So this is pretty good. So we could go ahead and put in Tevin Coleman, unless, like I said right here, even cheaper than that, 5,200. If you want to compare and look at Murray, because he's involved in the passing game, even though he's only had a couple really good games, his production, well, I can even see here, 9.7. The last game before that, 29.2 on DraftKings. Prior to that, 6.1 points. Prior to that, 10.6 and 18.7 prior to that. So he gets some pretty decent games, and his floor is somewhat high, really. And looking at these numbers here, so if you want a poor man's version of Tevin Coleman, you can go with DeMarco Murray to give you some options. And here's another tricky one there. He's healthy and at home, Kareem Hunt, and he has a pretty good matchup. But Buffalo is one of those defenses there where you don't know, what they're capable of doing here, even on the road. So it's more of a risk. And so let's go ahead here with see if we can fit Tevin Coleman, of course. Right. Okay, so we're moving on to the wide receiver position. All for week 12, this particular week. This is Friday evening, by the way, almost 10 p.m. Show what's going on. There's injury updates on this tool and the site as well. Some of these show arrows going up. That just means a particular player is out, such as Juju Smith-Schuster. So they're going to rely more logically on Brown and the other guy. Can't think of his name. Murray, I think. All right, so we're looking at value plays here once again. Let's order these in terms of dollars. Let's see who's on a reasonable price range at home and favored, right? This game there, I don't remember actually who's favored. I like Ty, even better than Tyreek Hill. So, and overall his ranking is looking better and everything. So, in a tournament, really, it's kind of a perfect play. I mean, 6,700, you're not paying a whole lot, so let's put him in there. And how about a stack? Can we put somebody of or decide on a wide receiver maybe to put with Mariota, even though he doesn't have? Let's see. Too bad we can't get Matthews. So Eric Decker, good matchup. Good play here, right? What about the other guy? So Decker currently gets 6.7 points per game with almost 5 targets. That'll go up this particular game. We're going to try to be at 7 targets. So if he gets a couple more, that'd be fine. If his ownership percentage will go up and everything in this particular contest. Where's the other guy? Davis, right? Look for Davis. Oh, I need to search him out. Let's see. We just got to switch this over to top player this week to show everyone. So let's see if we can find Davis. Just waiting on that. Corey Davis, here he is. So he hasn't scored very well. His games have not been so productive, even though he's got 7 targets a game. So it's an iffy situation and sort of a risk, and the kind of risk that you would, I suppose, look at in an upside as a young player. But there's no numbers to back him up at this point. So at 4,900 though, the price is low. We could do that. But I would say that for the third wide receiver or flex. So let's look at what else we have, because we can always go tight end on the stack and just do that. So another wide receiver we need anyways. We need another optimal play. Okay, so we got Julio Jones, who's up there in price. We got Doug Baldwin, who's highly favored in this game and connecting with a good quarterback. We've got Landry on a team without a starting quarterback, but has Matt Morris, could play well. We have Devin Funchess, who's a solid upside number 2 wide receiver with Cam, who's a little bit banged up, but we could go with him even though he's not at home. Let's continue to look on here. Demaryius Thomas, who has another new quarterback in there. It's not going to be the tall guy. I can't think of his name. It's going to be the other guy who's a second-year player, basically. So we don't know what that element's going to bring. There's some risk involved in terms of those plays. Let's look at some more solid maybe options here. With Mohamed Sanu, he's a highly favored play this week at home, and he's got some game, of course, and doesn't have a whole lot of upside, but his highest game was 19.4 on DraftKings. But we can look to him for some stability, which we need in our roster. We can't just all go with risk players. So we're going to put him in there. Sanu. Okay, ban. Now, we're trying to balance out our roster. I believe Hilton is floor is low enough to where he's not very much for risk. So we can go with an even more riskier player at our third wide receiver option. As we see and we've known, as Kenny Stills is proven to be worth a good look in tournaments such as this, as he's performed well before. And even Paul Richardson has done so, but this is a highly favorable matchup for Stills, as he gets another one this week. Unless we go with like a Marquise Lee, which doesn't have as much ceiling, I suppose. Away game and everything, but Stills with an away game in New England. So, Moore is a good quarterback, so we could certainly go with him instead of trying to go with someone that, that hasn't done anything, Corey Davis, or a guy, Decker, who's a slot receiver who's going to try to play outside, which I don't like that idea for me. So I'm going with Stills as a poor man's whoever you want to compare him to. So give us some salary relief still for stills. All right. So we needed a good option at tight end. And here's where I have I have no problem going with sticking Walker in there at the price 5,000 and the overall rankings and so forth match up. Let's go with him. Because he's the best option for Mariota right now. And we got a flex and a DST. So we can just click on flex in our price range, what is our price range here? We've got 33.50, so not good, right? So guess who we've got to sacrifice here and get some more price? I don't think we're going to get anything in the 33.50 price range, especially not with DSTs, right? Huh. That's interesting though to see who's in this price range on defense. 3,300. Carolina at the Jets. 21st ranked opponent. Broncos. We got the Titans. 30th ranked. They have a good matchup, of course, against Indy. But I don't want to go against one of my plays here in Hilton, so I don't want to do that for this particular lineup construction. Wow. Patriots against Miami. I don't want to go against Kenny Stills, right? I'm not going any for any Jets. I think Panthers is decent play. So I mean, I like to go as high as I can. You know what? Forget this. I'm gonna have to take one of these guys out that are more expensive, such as Gurley, because I know there's other plays, right? And as we already mentioned, I like Murray. Boom. Now I can do with something that we want to do with our defense here. That's a priority. I put a premium on defenses. So if I can go with the number one scoring defense, I do. I'm sure to get those points at a high floor out of them. Jacksonville. Points per game, 14 point, almost 15. Man, how can you go wrong? Okay, 4,100. To me, these are cheap price. I'm used to playing on FanDuel with these a lot more, so I'm going to go with it as the best defense versus Arizona. Arizona's tired, and they've always been in situations where they don't score as many points in this scenario, but it's based on another number of different factors. But I'm not going to really get into it. And then we have got our flex at 6,200 left over. We got an excellent flex option here, I'm sure, at 6,200. Let's see. Here we go. Funches. Haha, we mentioned him earlier. Great. Great. I like it. Just to confirm everything's good here. That's good. So there we're entering that. All right, so glad to show you that. And keep up with that info there. Keep comparing, crunching the numbers. Look into my report on more information there as a sort of a beginner and even into intermediate levels. That I'll leave in the description of the YouTube channel here, the website to go to for the free report and how to actually go about getting calculations. And in order to do this, of course, it takes longer. You can do all this free, but the draft dashboard, as you'll have the option of getting into this a free trial at least, to get into that there on the same site. So it's left on the description of this video page. So hope all goes well with that. So you've seen the lineup, and now, of course, we'll see how everything goes and does on Sunday. I've got another one there for FanDuel prior to this video that's out. You can look at done in a similar way and see how you do in these lineups. So it should be profitable, and you should be able to continue to do so every week and put in multiple lineups, of course, and not just one, and make them as affordable as you can get them. Use your poor man options. Get guys in there that are that you can figure out if who's risky and who's not, if just from experience, as more experience you gain. So that should really help you, I believe, and then make it a good night.